Today is Wednesday, May 18th, 2016. This is Tom Dillon, the Lifetime Liberal, and the title of this rant will be Obama, please close the billionaire tax loophole. This is in reference to an article written by Chuck Collins at inequality.org. Now, let's just let me just admit at the front that we all want to be stinking rich. We all want to say F you to the man, as they say. Plenty of songs have been written about that. And, well, let's just say for me, I'd like to have a little bit more than what I'm making right now. I'd like to have enough so that I wouldn't be a burden on my children later on in life. And I'd like to have enough so that I could pay for one of my daughter's weddings, upcoming weddings. So I don't necessarily need a whole heck of a lot, but it certainly does seem like the hedge fund billionaires on Wall Street certainly need what they have, and they want to keep it, and Obama needs to rescind it. So right now, hedge fund managers are paying only on capital gains, which is 20%. So all the money that they make is basically earning interest on other people's money that they invest in the stock market and hedge funds and all this other kind of stuff. And if we were able to tax them at the rate the ordinary citizen is taxed, and for these billionaires it's at 39, I believe, 0.6%. And remember, they are billionaires. They're just not stinking millionaires. They're billionaires. And of course, that amount of tax would amount to approximately $18 billion per year. Now, if we use a round number, let's just say $20 billion per year, we know that $1 billion per year would be the equivalent of hiring 20,000 people at $50,000 per year. So 20 times 20, that would be the equivalent of having an additional 400,000 people in the marketplace buying and selling goods and services who are making $50,000 per year. Now, we could break it down in other ways, and I will in just a minute. But this is not what's happening. And the reason it's not what's happening is because that's what is written into the tax code, that they only have to pay 20% on capital gains. And of course, that's how they derive their money. So an electrician goes out and works, wherever they work, and let's say they make $50,000, $70,000 a year, they're paying over 35% in taxes. And because the billionaires are super rich, they only have to pay 39.6% in taxes on their income. But with capital gains, that's the only income these hedge fund people make. And they think they only need to be taxed at that 20% rate. Now, just yesterday, Obama and the Labor Department said, oh, if you're making up to $47,000 per year, you need to get overtime. And it used to only be $20,000. So that's kudos to Obama and the Labor Department for that. But we really need to get the big money, and the big money is held in the hands of very, very few people in this regards, those hedge fund managers. And now Obama right now is saying that he can't do it. Now, my particular point is, he did it on the inversion where companies wanted to basically incorporate themselves overseas just in paper and thereby save themselves billions in taxes. He cut that out. He should do this out too. Even if it's going to take a while for it to get to the court systems, because you know that Congress will go ahead and take them to court. It obviously won't be settled in the next administration, but it would be a great political rallying point for Hillary or for Bernie, in the upcoming election. Now, as I said, this could, in one way, you could look at that as this being the equivalent of getting 400,000 people back into the workforce at approximately $50,000 per year. Now, the way the hedge funds work is that if you were to invest, if a hedge fund were to get $10 billion. Now remember that $10 billion is not their money. That's other people's money. They take 2% right off the top. So 10% would be $1 billion. They take $200 million right off the top. And then after it earns a certain amount, they get 20% of the profits. So every additional billion after a certain amount that it's already gone up, they get 20%. So for every additional billion that they make, they get an additional 200 million. So these people are filthy, filthy rich. And as I said, this is actually written into the tax code. And of course, what are they doing, those billionaire hedge fund managers, to make sure that it's staying in the tax code? They're bribing mostly Republicans, but yes, there are some Democrats bribing. And when I say bribing, they're in essence paying, getting their lobbyists down there. Now, the lobbying efforts that they're doing, in essence, is basically only 1/10 of 1% of that $18 billion. So again, if you look at that as just as being 20 billion, 10% being a billion, 1% being 100 million to 200 million, then 1/10 of 1% is about 20 million. That's all these billionaire hedge funds are paying for lobbying efforts in Congress and in the state houses. Now, they're using additional money on top of that to spend money for political action campaigns, to invest in, I guess it's just political action committees for, let's just say, Trump, so that stuff will be continued to be put into the, so that they can continue with their 20%. All right. And of course, we see that Sheldon Adelson is willing to just give. He can't give it to Trump directly, but he can give it to those political action committees because of not the Citizens United. Yeah, I guess it was Citizens United. It wasn't Hobby Lobby. I was getting them confused. For Citizens United, he's going to spend $100 million. Now remember, when you think about it, a lot of that really should have been more of that should have been paid in taxes. So he's using money that's written into the tax code to keep more money in his own pockets, so he can bribe the campaigns, he can bribe the politicians to keep the money staying in his hands. Now, sounds like a great deal to me. Now again, I mentioned this 18 billion. Let's just look at some of the things that could be happening. We know that we need to have tremendous investment in infrastructure. So we need structural engineers, we need regular engineers, we need concrete companies, we need rebar companies, we need electricians, we need cement people, we need a whole host of people to do all of this type of work. And it even goes down to you need to have the steel-toed boots, you need to have gear. All of that stuff would be invested in America. In America, we could spend some of that money trying to work on the fact that the United States is way up there in their infant mortality rates. But we're not doing this. And why aren't we doing this? It's because Congress is allowing this to be written into the law. Because it is written into the law, they're making no efforts to change it, and they're trying to use the money that should have been gone to the people to pay them to be reelected. And this needs to stop. This needs to stop right away. Hopefully Obama will go ahead and do that and just stick his finger at Congress and say, let's go to court and let's get, and of course it'll never be decided in the Obama administration, but use that as a rallying cry for this entire election cycle, not just at the presidential level, but at all the down ballot levels, especially against the Republicans in the red areas. So let's get them out. We need to have a Democratic Congress, both House and Senate and presidency, and then, the real work begins, because we're going to have to really fight to get this taken care of, both at the State House and at the federal level.